The therapeutics of staying. She arrived wearing a colorful scarf and a smile that defied her chart. Metastatic neuroendocrine carcinoma, already involving liver and bone, but none of that showed on her face. She carried a notebook filled with stickers, prayers, and jokes. Later, I would learn she was a hospital clown, bringing laughter to children. The irony stunned me, someone so luminous, carrying so much illness. She reported recent onset double vision and a mild drooping of her eyelid. On examination, I noted involvement of cranial nerves 3, 4, and 6. The likely explanation was clear: central nervous system progression. That was the moment the encounter shifted, not in its diagnostic pathway, but in its emotional weight. I realized I wasn't just forming a differential. I was hoping for her, hoping for something salvageable, something I could offer that wasn't more loss. I told her the truth gently, that metastasis was more likely. But I also explained that a thrombosis, though improbable, was still possible, and that I would stay beside her while we waited. She nodded. We shared the uncertainty together. A venous MR angiography and brain MRI were promptly obtained. The images were unequivocal: a solitary, well-defined lesion at the base of the skull on the right, involving the mesial region, anatomically precise and unmistakably metastatic. Before returning to her, I paused. I recalled the deeper lessons of palliative care, not just frameworks for disclosing bad news, but the moral obligation to remain present when hope begins to shift. When I invited her husband to join us, I didn't begin with a scan. I began with her. She didn't break. She closed her eyes. Then she looked at me and said, "Thank you. You didn't disappear like the others." That moment remains with me more than the diagnosis itself. Not because of how I delivered the news, but because I had entered the conversation early, before certainty, and stayed through its unfolding. We often treat breaking bad news as an event: one sentence, one scan, one truth. But it's not a moment. It's the final act of a relationship built during diagnostic ambiguity. 2. That night, as I drove home, her words stayed with me. They revealed how patients live not only with illness, but also with the silence that follows it. What she thanked me for was not clarity or cure, but for refusing to retreat when uncertainty became heavy. Now I recognize how subtle the temptation to withdraw can be. Sometimes it comes disguised as efficiency, sometimes as professionalism, sometimes as the quiet fear of being changed by another's suffering. But that day taught me that presence is not a secondary gesture. It is an act of responsibility. To stay is to affirm that, even when medicine cannot protect the body, it can still safeguard dignity. 3. What I witnessed in her was more than physical decline. It was pain becoming a teacher once again. I had written of that before, yet in her presence the lesson took on new depth, that healing is not always found in action, but in the courage to stay. Her gratitude did not come from what I said, but from the simple fact that I did not leave. That realization has marked me more deeply than any technical decision I have ever made. 4. Her gratitude did not come from what I explained, but from the fact that I remained. That realization continues to mark me more deeply than any technical decision I made. This encounter, this staying, made me understand that medicine is also measured by what we are willing to carry with our patients: silence, uncertainty, even powerlessness. Suffering is experienced by persons, not bodies, and the task of medicine is to protect their integrity. 5. Perhaps this is the truest form of therapeutics, not altering the course of disease, but refusing to abandon the person who bears it.
A lasting lesson in therapeutics. Thank you. You didn't disappear like the others. This reveals that the patient's past trauma was not just from illness, but from the silence and withdrawal of caregivers when the news became difficult. The physician realizes that this moment of gratitude was more impactful than the diagnosis itself, precisely because he entered the conversation early, before certainty, and stayed through its unfolding. The subtle temptation to withdraw. The physician reflects on how easy it is for clinicians to retreat in the face of suffering, often disguising it as professionalism, efficiency, or a fear of being emotionally changed. He identifies this withdrawal as a temptation to be actively resisted. I agree with the author that presence is not a secondary gesture, but an act of responsibility. When medicine can no longer protect the body, its task is to safeguard dignity by refusing to abandon the person. Healing is found not just in action, but in the courage to stay. Medicine is measured not only by technical skill, but by what we are willing to carry with our patients. Silence, uncertainty, even powerlessness. The truest form of therapeutics is refusing to abandon the person who bears it.